Does my hat make me an extremist? How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about this ridiculous screenshot you may have seen on the Twitters, on Facebook, somewhere on the internets, and I'll place that on the screen before you. You see what it says. Potential terror threats. And this is on NBC, Nightly News. We'll prove it in a minute. Potential terror threats. Opposition to COVID measures. Claims of election fraud. Belief Trump can't be reinstated. And 9/11 anniversary and religious holidays. So this is an alert that has been issued to the American public to keep an eye out for these types of things. You don't want to wear the mask and you think that some things about the bug are kind of overblown. Hey, man, you might get put on the list. That's what I'm gathering from it. I mean, I'm not really sure why this should be out there. I mean, if for no other reason. Oh, maybe your uncle on Facebook thinks that Trump's going to come back at a particular day. You might want to call the federales on him and see what's going on so they can rush in his door and try to confiscate his laptop or his iPhone or something like that. That's kind of what it seems like. Now, I put this on my social media platforms, and the number one question is, hey, ABL, is this real? Can we get a link? Like, it's got to be a joke, right? No, it's not a joke. It is not a joke. And as a matter of fact, let's get into it. Let's go ahead and get straight on in it. We're going to go to DHS.gov. Again, DHS.gov. And I'll link this so you can see it and read it for yourself without my commentary in the description box below this video. So here we have it. This is a National Terrorism Advisory System bulletin, and it was issued yesterday, which was Friday, August 13th, 2021 at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. There's a PDF and everything, but we're going to read it right here. Summary of terrorism threat to the U.S. homeland. And this little piece of text is a good summary of it, and we'll go through some of the points. The Secretary of Homeland Security has issued a new National Terrorism Advisory System, NTAS, bulletin regarding the current heightened threat environment across the United States. The homeland continues to face a diverse and challenging threat environment leading up to and following the 20th anniversary of September 11th, 2001 attacks, as well as religious holidays we assess could serve as a catalyst for acts of targeted violence. Now, let's pause for a minute right there. Hasn't Joe Biden been talking about getting out of Afghanistan, but then going back? But anyway, hasn't he set the actual removal date for 9/11? Why would you do that? I don't understand why you would put that as a particular date, then be like, oh, well, let's be on the lookout for any kind of terror threat. Well, don't you think having a removal date, a 9/11 in Afghanistan, wouldn't that kind of spark some kind of terror threat from abroad? But I digress. These threats include those posed by domestic terrorists, individuals, and groups engaged in grievance-based violence, and those inspired or motivated by foreign terrorists and other malign foreign influences. These actors are increasingly exploiting online forums. So what is that? Like a website, a .com, a message board, or maybe twitter.com, facebook.com, etc. We'll keep on moving. To influence and spread violent extremist narratives and promote violent activity. Such threats are also exacerbated by impacts of the ongoing global pandemic, including grievances over public health safety measures and perceived government restrictions. So what does that mean? Oh, you got to wear a mask and you got to get the shot and all of that. So basically what they're saying, from what I'm able to read, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, but from what I'm able to read is that they're saying people are going to be upset about being forced to get the shot, about being forced to wear a mask, so they're going to go out there and attack people. That's kind of what I'm reading. And again, if I'm wrong, please let me know, but that seems to be what's going on. So what you saw, that little graphic right there, is not a joke. That's just excerpts from this particular bulletin. Let's go through a few of them right here. I won't go through this entire thing. Again, it will be in the description box. Additional details. Through the remainder of 2021, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, RMVEs, and anti-government, anti-authority violent extremists will remain a national threat priority for the United States. These extremists may seek to exploit the emergence of COVID-19 variants by viewing the potential reestablishment of public health restrictions across the United States as a rationale to conduct attacks. But it just said right there, just in a little bit more detail. Pandemic-related stressors have contributed to increased societal strains and tensions, driving several plots by domestic violent extremists, and they may contribute to more violence this year. So, I mean, they're saying it right there. Then here's some more about Al-Qaeda and everything. I think they were talking about Trump in there, like he might be reinstated. Oh, here's something right there. Historically, mass casualty domestic violent extremist attacks linked to RMVEs have targeted houses of worship and crowded commercial facilities or gatherings. Some RMVEs to advocate via online forums for a race war, and have stated that civil disorder provides opportunities to engage in violence and the furtherance of ideological objectives, the reopening of institutions, including schools, as well as several dates of religious significance over the next few months, could also provide increased targets of opportunity for violence, although there are currently no credible or imminent threats identified to these locations. So basically, it's like, hey, okay, we're opening back up. Things are kind of going back to normal. That could provide a dangerous environment. So is that discouraging schools from opening back up? Is that discouraging concerts and whatnot from happening because it could be terror threats linked to it? Or are all these places that open up going to have the federales on them like, hey, there could be something happening here. Let's spy on everybody to make sure there's nothing going on. Foreign and domestic threat actors, to include foreign intelligence services, international terrorist groups, and domestic violent extremists, continue to introduce, amplify, and disseminate narratives online that promote violence and have called for violence against elected officials, local representatives, government facilities, law enforcement, religious communities, or commercial facilities, and perceived ideologically opposed individuals. Now, here's where it gets to the whole thing about Trump, if I'm not mistaken. There are also continued non-specific calls for violence on multiple online forums associated with DVE, not sure what that is. If you guys don't let me know, ideologies or conspiracy theories on perceived election fraud and alleged reinstatement and responses to anticipated restrictions relating to the increasing COVID cases. So there you have it. That screenshot that we saw from NBC is not fake. It's 100% real, 1,000% real. And then my question, I mean, it's pretty much the elephant in the room. The obvious question is, if someone said, say, you know what, that election was kind of weird, I didn't like how it went, I felt like there was some fishy stuff going on. If you say that on Twitter, are you going to get put on the list? Are they going to spy on you? I saw this video that YouTube had curated in their virus news section, and they were talking about fake ID cards or the fake, virus passport cards, whatever they want to call them, basically to say that you got the shot. They're talking about, oh, don't go online and get those because, you could be sending your data to somebody and they might sell it and they might spy on you. It's like, really? You want to tell me that? I don't want to hear anybody from the federales or anybody linked to the federales talking about data being stolen. Now, I understand if I'm on the internet and I'm going to some sketchy website and I'm putting in my social, that might not be a smart thing because, that's asking for identity theft right there. And really, can you even call that identity theft if you hand it to them? But I digress. I understand that point. It's a valid point. But the government talking about stealing data, selling data, please. I mean, it's all kind of spying going on. We saw that Tucker Carlson. Oh, we're not spying on him. I forget what agency, what alphabet letter agency this was. They put out a statement on Twitter at 8 p.m. when Tucker's show was starting, talking about, oh, we're not spying on you. But then they came out that they were. But they weren't spying on them directly, so I guess they could say that. I don't trust these government organizations with my data, the same as I don't trust any sketchy, random Chinese website with my data. It's the same, in my humble opinion. They're talking about Huawei phones being dangerous. Yes, they are, because of the spying going on. But what phone is safe in the United States where the federales can do pretty much whatever they want to do to spy on you? As I close, I want to say this. It's getting pretty scary, actually, when you can't even really express yourself. We're going back to Nazi Germany, where you had to kind of whisper and keep things on the hush, and you didn't want to say anything bad about the, dear leader. You didn't want to say anything bad about the government, you didn't want to say anything subversive because you don't want to get put in the gulag. You don't want to make big rocks into little rocks. And I feel like we're going through that same exact thing right here, right now. But you guys know what it is. Those who do not understand history, those who are ignorant of history, are most certainly doomed to repeat it. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? How do you feel about a potential watch list being created for those who think that wearing a mask indoors is not really a smart thing to do, or who may think that the election didn't go right and there was some fraud going on? Is that grounds for a watch list? I mean, they're talking about a potential terror threat, but really, is there a terror threat from that? They want to hang on to January 6th like it was the worst thing in the world, like it was the equivalent of 9/11 or something like that. It simply was not. All these BLM and Antifa and stuff like that, that should be the focus. How many people have died, shot, killed, and died in other ways as a result of all these so-called protests that always devolve into riots? 600 of them over the U.S. in 1 year in 2020 compared to one January 6th. But for some reason, the January 6th gets an exponential amount more coverage than all the 600 riots combined. What's going on with that? There's obviously a political motive, a political narrative that is trying to be spun. So why would I take this thing seriously? But I guess you got to take it seriously because it could affect you. You could be on a list if you think that some of these measures don't make any sense. But am I wrong with what I'm saying? Am I right with what I'm saying? Whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.